Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What's the Rant? We are your host, Shagoto, Joydeep, and Shoham. We are today here with another episode of discussion, interesting discussion to present to all of you. So, myself, Shagoto, as you know, I'm a software engineer working with Tech Mahindra, working in the IT industry for the last 11 years and trying my luck with this podcast. And with me, there is Joydeep, and one new friend is joining today. This is Shoham. So, Joydeep and Shoham, if you can please introduce yourselves.
I'll go first. Hi, this is Joydeep Banerjee. I'm a software engineer as well. I work as a software engineer with a company called JSAT. We work for manufacturing automation. And as a part of my day job, I build software. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we hope to have a lovely discussion today. So thank you. Over to you, Shom.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Joydeep.
Thanks, guys. My name is Soham. Uh, Thanks to both of you for letting me speak today. What's the rant is very interesting. I'm not a software engineer. I am in the semiconductor industry. I work with chips. I work for a company called Cirrus Logic. I'm an ever curious individual. That's one of the reasons why I joined What's the Rant. There's so many different things to learn and unlearn with you folks. So, hoping today is going to be a blast. Uh, let's jump in, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you so
Sure.
much for joining today.
Yeah. Thanks, Joydeep, and thanks, Shoham. So, let's coming back to the main point of discussion of today. So, today we're going to discuss on how we can explore the idea of implementing blockchain in real estate, and specifically in the real estate sector of India. So today we will be covering four sections in today's discussion. So we will start with why uh, we are choosing the real estate industry as the problem area in our discussion. Uh, Secondly, we will explore what are the problems the people are facing currently in the real estate industry in India. Thirdly, we will be describing in a brief what this blockchain technology is about. And fourthly, we will explore the solutions with which we can try to see that how blockchain can come to help in solving the problems we are facing in the real estate industry. So, starting with the first thing, I was sorting through some data and statistics of the market of the real estate industry in India. So I could see that this market is really huge, and
Yeah.
it has like lots of potentials of expansion. Like what it is currently in, what state it's currently in. From there, it has a lot of growth potential. And as per the stats, I could see that by 2030, the real estate in India is expected to reach around 1 trillion US dollars.
Yeah.
And and currently the sector is valued at around 200 billion US dollars. So that's the growth rate of around 25%.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
also, like currently, I think the middle class is the main buyer of properties in India if we look
Yeah.
at the bulk amount.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they are the middle class today consists of around 25% of the whole population of India.
Yeah.
And by 2030, it's expected to rise by 75%. So that's like 3 times jump.
It
By
is.
2030, yeah.
And yeah. And so Joydeep, what's your thought on this population explosion and I will say standard of living is also going to increase. People will get more money to spend. So how is this going to impact the real estate industry?
Um, Thank you, Shagota. So, I mean, it's obvious, right? I mean, we have such a huge country, and we are already the largest populous country in the world. So
Yeah.
we have overtaken China recently. So and we are now the fifth largest economy in the world, right? And we are poised to be the third largest very soon.
In fact, we are already third if we consider it by the PPP model, the purchasing
PPP
power
model,
parity model.
by
Yeah,
model. Yes, yes. GDP by PPP. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can well imagine if the wealth is well distributed now. I mean, all the initiatives and all the programs that we have in place,
Yeah.
there will be huge migration of people from below poverty line or low income section to middle class section, right? So,
Yeah.
so that migration will actually lead to a lot of people aspiring for a better lifestyle, and better
Of
life
course.
will actually uh, also involve buying properties. You want to have, when you
Correct.
have enough money at your disposal, you will want to have a home of your own, right? You will want to have a good
Yeah.
home for
Yeah.
yourself. So that will actually catapult this whole demand of real estate, which is residential real estate, especially in India. So that's a huge, huge motivating factor uh, behind this whole boom in real estate industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. The other part, I guess, is and this kind of has a similar um, link, which is because of uh, huge migration happening, lot of small towns that are there in India will be urbanized. So they'll turn into cities.
Correct.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you have rapid urbanization happening in a country like India, it will have a huge demand for real estate, be it residential, be it commercial, be it industrial. So, which are the three kind of categories that we can divide real estate into, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
huge demand for residential real estate because people who want to stay somewhere. There's be huge demand for commercial real estate because if you're getting into that middle income zone, you will want to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, own a business at some point. Maybe you want to start something of your own, so you want an office space for yourself, and for that you would need a commercial space, right?
Yeah.
And also, if you want to sort of um, bring more industry into your country, you would want to have SEZs, places like SEZ, where big
Mm-hmm.
uh, big companies, big industries can set up their shops, right? They will need a
Correct.
whole lot of land to build
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure. So
And in
industrial
addition
real
to
estate.
that,
Yeah,
I think even travel
yeah,
is changing these days. The
yeah, yeah,
once
yeah.
a
Luxury, leisure.
population, yeah, once the population moves into the middle class, and you have more disposable income, you would want to travel, not just traditional hotels, but we see Airbnbs and
Yep, yeah, yeah,
residential
yeah,
properties being transitioned into
Correct.
uh, tourism purposes. For
yep,
that
yep,
also, I believe India is poised to have that revolution, right, in real estate. More and more people will actually want to buy vacation homes, not just
Mm.
their homes, but vacation homes, as you have more and more disposable income. So that's one more avenue that is at its infancy in India,
yes,
and
yes, yes. And
that
it's
has been.
growing. It's growing pretty rapidly. So it's picking up. It's quite common in the Western world, and it will soon gain a lot of ground in India as well. It's already happening in most of these tourist areas. Like if you go to Goa, if you go to Himachal, these things are quite quite a thing. It will soon grow into other uh, pockets of India where it's not there yet, but will soon gain when people will understand there is a lot of opportunity that is untapped yet in that particular sector. Right.
Oh,
So,
but Joydeep, do you think that India can afford to have that much of natural resources to provide
very
uh,
good.
like uh, residential or commercial real estates to all the population it has currently?
I mean, we cannot compare, obviously, yes, a very good question. We cannot compare India to United States or Europe, right? Because we do not, land comes with is a premium, comes with a lot of cost because we do not have enough land to even, house our own countrymen or women, right? So, yes, but there's still opportunity now because the lot of land that we have at our disposal at this point is still uh, not fully utilized. So at this point, into 2023, I think we still have enough land there where we can build enough industry where we can use that land for things like vacation homes and leisure industry and things like that. So we are not
Good,
there
good.
yet, but at
Yeah,
some
yeah.
point it will come where we have to sort of take or push the brakes where we say, okay, fine, maybe we need to do
Yeah.
that, right? But we are not there yet, I think.
And
Yeah.
even on
And
that point,
and I think it's not only about like what you have talked about, like the residential and the commercial spaces only. So since India is on a booming spree currently, in a very fast pace, so I think the infrastructure projects are also going at a rapid pace by the
Yes.
government, and they are also taking a lot of land resources
Yeah.
for expansion of highways, for establishment of new industries, for expansion of railways. So I think that also makes some sense in this uh,
Yeah.
context or scenario.
You have to build, you have to lay the rails, the railway lines, right? You
Yeah,
have to make
yeah,
ways for intercity railways, metros, and things like that, right? You have to build highways, better streets,
absolutely.
better amenities, right? For better, because if you want good industry to be built, you have to have better infrastructure, and that kind of goes hand in hand. So, yes.
Yes,
The other point about government, I think one of the biggest initiatives that are going on, and that is going on in India is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, right, where government
yes,
is trying to provide either free housing or low cost housing to people who
correct,
cannot afford, right? So there is a huge
correct, correct.
that as a country we can provide quality living,
Yes,
basic amenity to people who cannot possess that sort of lifestyle,
yeah.
right?
So what do you think are the current obstacles or impediments as far as this real estate industry is concerned in India, for the common people mostly,
Um,
and from the government's perspective also?
yeah, I think, and there are many, I think, right? So I think one of the recently, if you remember when we were talking with Abhirup, right?
Right,
One of
right,
our
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah,
he was
exactly.
he actually bought a flat recently, an apartment
Yes,
in Calcutta,
yes,
and he was talking about all the hassles he had to go through, right?
exactly, exactly.
And so there are a lot of agencies that you have to visit. You have to go to different government agencies to do different kind of things, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
on top of that, I think one of the things he kept on saying that because I had a friend who is a lawyer, who is now a judge, an established judge now, who's also very
yeah,
close friend
yeah.
to Anupam, right? Because he was there as a legal advisor, the whole process was smooth for him, relatively smooth
Exactly,
for him. And that is
exactly.
one of the things that stood out for me. Why would that be the case, right? So I
Right,
think
right.
that conversation actually gave me a lot of pointers. What are the basic problems that people who are trying to buy asset in India, real estate asset in India, are facing today, right? And that is there's so many agencies that are involved in the process, in the whole commerce. While you're trying to transact, while you're trying to buy or sell a property, there are so many
Mhm.
agencies involved. It creates a lot of confusion, right? Who to
Exactly.
go to for this document,
Mm.
who to go to for this uh, process, for this procedure, for this thing, for that thing. You don't know that, right? Unless you
Actually,
have
we don't
somebody.
even, yeah, actually, we don't even have a flowchart defined. Like these are the steps you have to follow to buy a property.
And
It's
yeah,
just
it
like,
you're
increases
not
the
taught
level
that in
of
school as
confusion.
well, so you don't know. I
yeah,
mean, when you have some money in your hand, you have worked hard enough to
y-
sort of amass that kind of wealth, and now you
yeah,
want a house for yourself, and now you are sort of, you know, woken up to this like, what is happening? What should I do with
yeah,
this
right.
money? Who should I go to?
Exactly.
And not everybody is lucky enough to have a friend like Anupam, right? Who has
Of
that
course, of course.
legal knowledge,
Yeah,
has that depth in this particular sector to provide you that kind of suggestion and advice.
right.
So what would you do? You're kind of at the mercy of these government agencies, or some lawyer might be crooked one, right? And then you're sort of spending all your hard-earned money into that,
Yeah,
and a lot of money might go into waste. So one of the biggest things I see here is the confusion that happens because of a lot of agencies that are
yeah,
operating in this thing.
right. And not to forget
Yeah.
about the pimps which are there.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Who can forget about the
Yeah,
agents, right? Um, so so yeah. So that. So a lot of agencies, you don't know. That's where the middlemen come in, and
Yeah.
they sort of muddy the whole water.
Yeah. And they have to give bribes, and unless the process won't move further.
Yep, yep. And other part is, I mean, they're kind of interrelated, but I think uh, uh, transparency is a huge factor, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
um, because the records are not available readily, the government websites that are now floated are available for those data, but I think it's still not as navigable as you would want, right? So you
Right. Yeah.
have um some sort of cognizance of the whole sector, the whole industry, or
Hmm.
the whole discipline as a whole as a whole, to understand what's happening there. So you need to know the terms, need to know the intricacies of this whole thing, so that you understand what to expect, what to do, and what to search for in that particular website as well.
Correct.
So lack of information, transparency is a huge is in huge deficit in this whole
Hmm.
game. So transparency, I think, is a huge thing, and that's lacking, which also leads to lack of trust in the system and confidence, right? So if I'm a
True.
buyer
True.
today, I do not know what to do. What am I getting into? Am I buying the right property? Is the property properly valued? Am I paying the
Correct.
money for into a worthy enough thing?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do not know. So the valuations, the data that is available, I do not know if that can be trusted. So trust
Whether the property is a disputed one or not.
the property. So chain of custody. The other one is ownership determination
Yeah.
and chain of custody. Is that property is at all disputed ever? Or was
Exactly.
it? We may know. We may know who is the current owner, who the property belongs to at this point, but we do not know
Hmm.
who was the person who was actually owning, or what organization, or who was the actual owner, and the whole chain of custody, right from the beginning,
Right.
maybe
Right.
right from
Right.
independence, right? Who owned,
Exactly.
or before that, maybe. We do not know if there's any.
Exactly.
Also, uh, apart from the dispute, you don't know what kind of land was it, right?
Hmm.
It could have been a water body. Say you're buying an apartment in a multi-storied building, and
Hmm.
that building is, say, 9 story high.
Yeah.
You need to know what kind of land was it, right? Was it a
Of
water
course.
body? Was
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is that land strong enough to withstand that kind of a structure? You need to know,
Exactly.
because you are paying your hard-earned money into the property. You need to know. So those kind of things I
True.
don't think is easily available. That kind of data is easily available in India when you're trying to buy a property.
And also on that
True.
matter,
Yeah.
you guys
Mhm.
were speaking about a consumer doing the due diligence. Because there is this kind of confusion and things are not easily accessible, there's a lack of trust, and the lack of trust is shared by the financial organizations who are going to
Yeah.
fund your transactions, right? So
Yeah.
even if you do your due diligence, as a consumer that does their due diligence, the financial organizations also do their due diligence at the same time. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of redundancy in the process, the way I see it,
Yeah.
and
True.
it's unnecessary red tape. It makes it a painstaking, slow process.
Yeah.
um, it's a bottleneck.
Yeah.
You any transaction has to go through months of wait.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
stakeholder does their same kind of due diligence of the entire process, which ideally, if it was a trustworthy system, you would have to do it once and everybody
Mhm.
else would accept it. So clearly the scale of the problem is increasing, as Shagato said, by 2030. But we definitely need to remove these bottlenecks along the way. Otherwise, different stakeholders, they have to have that element of trust in itself. Just my 2 cents on that matter.
Yeah. And also, quickly, one more point is, say I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm interested in real estate. Uh, I want to build my company that will invest in real estate as somebody who will sort of buy assets and sell assets for a profit, right? If I want to build a building, say, it's a long stay, it's a long drawn process, right? To build a building, to construct a building is a long drawn process, and it's a financially heavy uh, undertaking. I need to
Of
take
course.
loan
Yeah.
from a financial institution or a bank. Now, the banks and the financial institutions, they are kind of wary of giving you loans, or furnishing loans uh, to new founders or star or entrepreneurs, because you do not have that kind of credentials, right, to show.
Right.
Because there's a lack of liquidity in the market, because there's a lack of trust in the system, like Shom was mentioning. Startup owners, entrepreneurs like us, who will be interested in real estate, investing in real estate, will not get enough funding to even start a business and do
True. True.
almost there. So that is the kind of bigger, and also there's a long gestation period that goes into it,
Hmm.
right? So you can take money today, you have a plan in
Yeah.
place, but the time it will actually take to have the actual building start doing commerce, some kind of commerce, is long. It's very long drawn, right? And
True.
as financial institution, we're quite worried whether this whole initiative will at all bear any profit in the future. And if you do not have any credential to show as an entrepreneur, then
Hmm.
obviously you are kind of at a disadvantage right from the get-go.
Of course. Of course.
Those kind of things need to be solved. And I think if we have to realize the full potential of this industry, which is poised
Yeah.
to I think in conservative terms, a
Hmm.
$1 industry by 2030. I think if we can solve or remove these impediments, I think we can easily go past that figure by 2030.
True. True. So who do you think is mainly responsible for this kind of mess up? From your discussions, it seems that it's like an unending loop. It's a never-ending loop. So do you think it's the lackadaisical attitude of the government that it's causing this kind of mess, or what it is?
So it has to be the government who has to take the initiative to build or to solve these problems. So the initiative should come from the government, and it can obviously, like we have examples, we have precedents in our country, right, where payment system was a huge pain,
True.
right? And we have
True.
overcome it. How? By
Agree.
an unprecedented, a revolutionary technology,
Interference. Yeah.
UPI,
Yeah.
Unified
Yeah.
Payment System. And we can follow suit, right? Something we can build likewise, where it will actually seamless the whole transaction, the whole commerce in real estate. And obviously,
True.
like to answer your question, yes, the initiative has to be taken by the government, and also, but it doesn't have to be the government who will actually implement these solutions. It
Right.
can be
Yeah.
an independent body, it can be a private body, for-profit body, whatever it is. But the initiative has to be, the first step has to be taken by the government. It can be central government, or it can be the state governments coming together to, because the land again is, I think, is a state affair.
Yes. Yes. It's a state affair. Yeah.
State affair, right? So
Yeah.
the states have to come together, come to a
Yeah.
consensus, say yes, we want something like this, and so therefore let's do this. Build a consensus.
Correct.
Maybe start small. Start with the consenting states, a few consenting states, and then you can build once every
Yeah.
state
Yeah. Yeah.
is benefit in this initiative. Perhaps if
Yeah, they can start with a pilot project with a couple of states, and then once it becomes successful, it can be rolled out to the other states also.
yep.
Think about
Yeah, I
problem.
think too.
One more problem that I was just thinking while you were speaking, Joydeep. Um,
Mhm.
if you have to get a place, say in a particular locality in a district, there is a certain office, a predetermined office that you have to go, which holds the records, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you can get it from any governmental office. So there is a problem of localization also. So you have to you stay in a different city, you have to make the arduous journey to this particular office. The records are only there if at all they're there, right?
Yeah.
So centralization of data is also an issue, and then of course this is in government hands like you just said. So um, this problem also has to be addressed by government themselves, because they have the data, they have the historical records with them at this point. It's in a very uh, poorly organized fashion, which causes
Right.
all the lack of transparency and the trust and everything. But localization of data is also very is a problem that I see in the current market.
Yeah.
Yeah, regarding this, I think some of the states have recently come up with some kind of centralized database of the land banks. Like in West Bengal, we have one online repository where we can go and check the like who is the owner of the land, to whom does it belong, what's the transactions performed on a particular piece of land, and so on and so forth. But I'm not sure whether like the point to mention that if you want to buy a land, you have to go to that particular office and like submit some documents. I'm not sure whether that can be skipped, but at least to some extent, at least some point, a scale of digitization is happening.
Yeah.
But that's for sure,
Yeah,
yes.
that's true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
The sites that are there, I think government of West Bengal has built
Yes.
a site. I think also one quick note is these apps and even the site, to my knowledge, only carries the information that is current. In the sense,
Okay.
you only know the current owner. You do not
Okay.
know. You don't have the full information, the full history of ownership.
Mhm.
The current owner, or maybe the owner right before the current owner.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. You go back one or two at
Yeah.
most, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But not more than that. So you do not have, uh, the whole chain of ownership recorded,
Right.
which means that you do
Right.
not know whether if it was disputed ever, whether that
Ex-
kind of problem will ever come home to roost,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
You do not know that. So
Yeah.
I think the solutions we will discuss will kind of
Yeah.
work towards solving an issue like this.
Yeah. So this is where I think blockchain comes to the rescue,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So Shoham, if you can like briefly describe us how we are going to use this blockchain thing and what it's all about. I mean, I
What
think
blocks?
most of the people of India, I mean, they may be known to the term, but they don't know that what exactly blockchain does.
Oh
So if
yes,
you can
I
briefly
mean,
explain.
even for me, when Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain, all these fancy technological words came in, uh, me and like many of people like me, we thought of these like extremely complicated technologies that have just come and the world is raving about. And if you're like me, you'll probably want to know the crux of it, in simple language, so that
Yeah.
you won't just avoid it. So yeah, I can try to describe what blockchain technology is in very simple words. I may be oversimplifying it, but I do have
Sure.
an
Sure.
I
But
can
that's okay.
uh,
We like some.
yeah, it's very simple, this
Exactly.
example. I was thinking about it. So say you and your five friends decide to go on a trip, and your you delegate a head. His name is Tom, and you pool all your money, right? All of you give a fixed amount to this guy and say, hey, you are going to handle all the finances, and you're going to do it from this one pool of money that we all give you throughout the entire trip. All the rest four of you who are not taking up the responsibility, you just chill, you have a brilliant time. And Tom keeps track of
Mhm.
all the transactions, a log of all transactions. He lists it down, right, in a document. So the trip is over, you're all happy, and then Tom comes in and says, hey, the entire money is gone and I've spent so much more money and you have to pay up. So what do you do at that point? So one thing is you can just look at his log, the log that he has,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But maybe he fudged it. You didn't check it, right? During the you're having a gala
Right.
time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's one problem, the element of trust. Uh,
Hmm.
One thing that you can do to avoid this is each one of you can keep the most updated log, a copy of the updated log to yourselves.
Hmm.
So Tom does the due diligence, right? He puts it up in the log, but you are also keeping just the log, you're just keeping a copy of it. So that's one problem, that you can avoid some part of this mistrust by keeping the log. But what if
Okay.
says that, hey, you guys have that log, but that's not the latest one. The latest one is with me. So there is an element of tampering with the data also. Who do you trust? Is
Mm-hmm.
your data the right data, or is Tom's data right data, right?
True.
So clearly you can see there's a problem of trust developing here also.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, what you want is, and this is alluding to what blockchain does, is one, you want to decentralize the data that you have. It can be records, it can be information. You can decentralize, keep copies of this data, and you keep a mechanism to lock this data. Some mechanism where you have a way to lock the data so that nobody else,
Mm-hmm.
including you, can change it. And then you share that data with people. So that at that point you know that okay, everyone, nobody can change the data. So we are very sure we have a lot of trust that the log is correct. So
Great.
these are the
Okay.
pillars. Yeah, these are the two pillars of blockchain the way I see it. One,
Mm-hmm.
concept of immutability, right? The data
Mm-hmm.
is immutable, and the other is the decentralized way of organizing the data, where people have redundant copies of the data. So you have redundancy,
Great.
you have a basis. Now, I think redundancy was very easy, I guess. Like you share the data to every people. But what is locking?
Yeah.
The way we think about locks is like the door, our door lock, right? How can you
Mm-hmm.
have a lock to your data? So computer science has given us something very interesting in the field of cryptography, right? What it does is, like, think of us humans. We have a way of authenticating ourselves. How do we do that? We do that using our signatures, maybe our fingerprints or our signature. That's a way of authenticating that
Great.
we are who we claim to be. There is a smart way where you can take a block of data, you can pass it through a magic box, say. Just don't worry about what is inside the box, but you send the data inside this box, excuse me, and that actually gives you a unique signature of this data. Now, if you ever change the data in itself and you send the change data through the box, the previous signature that you got and the new signature, they won't match. And that's like an indirect way of gauging that, oh, the data has been tampered with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way to cryptography provides these signatures to data such that you can actually create a lock for this data, create this unique signature. Any change that any one
Okay.
of my friends did, they can
Mm-hmm.
trigger a change of the signature, and it's going to be very easy for people to catch
Yeah.
because
Okay.
everybody has the same set of data.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that one person does, if the other person does not believe it, they can verify
Mm-hmm.
the signatures and know that, oh, yeah, something went wrong. So that's the crux of
Okay.
block. So it's a chain of data blocks which are locked in some way,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
everybody in a network, shares this data, and uh, there's a very easy sequential way to, whenever new data, whenever new records come up, you can append or add to this entire blockchain. You can lock the data and append it. So to everyone, it's a very foolproof method of organizing data and keeping it very trustworthily. So yeah, that's what I think about blockchain in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And one quick thing is, so you cannot. So even if you say I'm a bad player, right? I want to sort of tamper with the data. So if I try to do that, what will happen is the blockchain will actually reject my data. It will throw it away. Because for me to actually make the blockchain believe that my data is trusted, is trustworthy, not Shom's data, is to make sure that I tamper with all the blocks that have preceded my block, right? So that the cryptographic hash that Shom was talking about is maintained. That relationship is
Mm-hmm.
maintained between the blocks, right? So I have to make sure that all the relationships are being are changed, and that's a hugely costly, computationally hugely costly process,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not possible. So, and it will become impossible more and more when you have more number of data blocks, because changing infinite data blocks almost
Right.
is impossible computationally. So we can
Right.
safely assume that data will never be tampered with or cannot be tampered with.
Mhm. But what if, in case of there is some wrong input and we need to correct or modify some data? In that
Yeah.
case, how would that be?
Yes. So the concepts of blockchain, I guess, right? So it can be like um, you can have a public blockchain where you cannot have anybody have any authority be able to manipulate any sort of data, right? It's completely decentralized, completely distributed, right?
Mhm.
So what you can do is you can again insert a rectified block and
Okay.
say that fine, this is the new block which will actually rectify
Mhm.
the old block, right? That you
Okay.
can do.
Okay.
So both the records will be there so that you know that uh, you know this block will nullify the transaction that happened in the previous
Mhm.
block, which was the wrong trade. That
Right.
is if it's completely decentralized. Now there are blocks
Mhm.
also there which are semi public,
Mhm.
which are private blockchains, right?
Mhm.
Where you
Yeah.
have some authority or few people who have the authority or the privilege to
Mhm.
to manipulate or change the data, given there is a consensus built, right?
Okay.
Even in that authority body, you have enough consensus where you can go in and you can change or rectify certain data, right? So that
Okay.
is,
Okay.
but that
Mhm.
does not completely uh, play well or augur well with the whole concept of blockchain, because
Okay.
blockchain in a way does not allow you to ever tamper with what is there. It's there and it's there for eternity, right? You
Right.
cannot change or doctor or tamper with any kind of data. If you have to change any data, you have to send in another data block which will actually nullify or
Mhm.
neutralize the wrong block.
Mhm. Okay. So why are we talking about blockchain in the context of the problem we were discussing in the first place? How
Yep.
does blockchain comes into the place to help or solve the problems which we are talking about?
So I guess I think the what we were talking about all this while were essentially records of land which are required
Okay.
to actually have the transactions in the real estate world, right? So we are all bothered about the data, the real estate data that we need to gather. We need to go through the process, the due diligence. We need to have a trustworthy method to believe the data so that nobody has ever tampered with it, right? Then we are also worried about how do we get the data very easily. We don't have to be dependent on a centralized agency to do it. If a person in Calcutta wants to buy something in Bangalore, um, is it necessary for them to go through the process, understand the entire process of how Bangalore works, how the real estate process works there, or is there a safer way, right? And
Mhm.
blockchain, if you think of it, it actually solves the problem of trust. It also solves the problem of organizing data in a fashion which is decentralized, which is easily accessible, without the fear that any access is going to tamper the data in itself. So I
Mhm.
believe there are parallels between how we can gather information, how we can organize information. Blockchain provides a very safe, seamless fashion. And if you remember, I think we should actually think about the threats or the problems that we spoke and try to tie them together with blockchain and think about how it's possible, how the problems that Joydeep was speaking about can be actually addressed by the technology that we were just speaking about, right?
True. True. Yeah.
Yep. And I think the two tenets that we actually care about when we speak of real estate, right, are trust and transparency. And
True.
those two tenets can be addressed by the technology called blockchain. And that is
Mhm.
what this underscore is, right? Blockchain by definition, by design, can help you address those two problems: trust and
Mhm.
transparency. And I think, and this is not just, I mean, it's blockchain is not a silver bullet, right? It's not the solution,
Mm.
one
True.
solution uh, for every problem, right? It's There's not
Mhm. Yeah.
one silver bullet. So we're not saying that all the problems that we have in real estate can be solved by by blockchain. That's not what we are offering or we are proposing. What we are saying instead is, how about like UPI, like UADI, or Aadhaar, we build a platform or framework,
Mhm.
have a bedrock that will basically be blockchain enabled or be built on blockchain. And on top of that, we bring in other technologies as well, which can solve other problems as well. But the basic fundamentals, the basic, uh, you know, the core tenet of that
Mhm.
framework or platform will be built on blockchain. Why? Because we want to do two things: is to that is to bring transparency and trust into the system. Now, what will that bring? That will bring a lot of other things as well, which is one of the things that we were talking about is the determination of ownership, right? The chain of custody.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Blockchain by default will have a record of all the transactions, all the data that are existing in that or that were transacted in that on that system, right?
Mhm.
It will never lose any kind of any data. So whatever happened will be persisted for eternity.
Right.
So
Right.
if we bring in all the records that we have, the past
Mhm.
record we have into that system, into the blockchain enabled system or blockchain based system, however you want to uh, see it,
Yeah.
those records, those data, those information will live there for eternity, and
Mhm.
and it will be easily accessible for anyone interested, any interested party, be it a buyer, be it a business, be it a seller, whoever, or law firm trying to uh, work on a litigation or on a legal case or whatever. It will be publicly available, and you can also build business, which we will talk about at some point. Build businesses, ancillary businesses on that
Mhm.
platform. So there are a lot of opportunities that can be, that can easily be uh, explored when we have a platform that is as trusty or as trusted as transparent, and that instills confidence in every stakeholder
Mhm.
that there is, right?
Yeah, but from what you're saying, I could see that. I mean, technologically it is decentralized. I understand that, but since, as we spoke already, that land and land reforms is part of the state affairs. So can we build some solution which is common for all the states, so that it's a common repository, so that, like Shram was saying, that a person in Kolkata can buy a property, view the deeds of a property in Bangalore and buy it. So is that feasible, you think, or it will need some judicial reforms?
No, I mean, talking about, I mean, yes, judicial reforms, if possible, yes. But I don't think as technologists we can speak much on judicial reforms.
Yeah,
So
true.
I think what we do is we can work within the confines of whatever judicial framework that there is,
Hmm.
right? So, and as I understand, every state has its own way of doing these things, right? They have their own set of workflows that you have to go through to actually uh, buy or sell a property.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be similar steps, but they're not always the same. So it varies from
True.
state.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
As we all know that when we talk about workflows, they can be translated into algorithms.
Hmm.
We talk about algorithms, they can also be automated. And in blockchain, we have a concept called smart contract. What
Agree.
those things do is, say we have a specific algorithm which will define a certain fix or set of states or set state of
Hmm.
process or procedures that need to happen before a transaction can be deemed as complete.
Hmm.
So we can define those states in a smart contracts. You say you are the buyer of a property, I am the seller of a property. If I am to sell, we have a smart contract that is there, and the property belongs in Calcutta. Property is in Calcutta. I am the seller. You are the buyer. And if the property is in Calcutta, it has to abide by the statutes or the laws of the state, which is state of West Bengal, right? And if there is a smart contract that actually is built, that is based on the statutes or the laws or the procedures that the government of West Bengal mandates, then I can say that yes, when I'm trying to buy, or when Shagota is trying to buy my asset, my property asset, or my real estate asset, these steps will be performed by the smart contract, and
Mhm.
I can be rest assured that when the smart contract is actually successfully executed, I'll have the money in my account, and also Shagota will have the property, uh, uh, owned by him. The ownership will be successfully transferred in his name.
Do you think that this will reduce the legal hassles we're talking about and the physical presence of a person, which is mandatory nowadays to buy a property in some other place or state where it's not living? So, will blockchain going to resolve this kind of problems?
Yeah, I think so. In a nutshell, uh, there was a very interesting point that Jadip mentioned about smart contracts. Smart contracts are a blockchain construct, right? They are built inside a blockchain. Essentially, the smart contract uses the information in a blockchain. It's kind of again a very secure contract. What it does is, in very layman's terms, the way I understand is, if a few conditions are met, then you transfer ownership.
Yeah,
So you can, as a law, the lawyers work in any litigation or any dispute. What happens there? It's like you're not meeting a certain set of criterias. A
yeah,
person said that they are going to provide the house in or an apartment in 2 years. They're not doing it. They're doing it in 3 years. It's gone 3 years. They're still not doing it. A smart contract can be something very set in stone, right? Like exact. It's
yeah,
going to. It won't trigger. It will trigger at 2 years. Say if the person is if the handover is not happening after 2 years, it can be deemed void. And it's just algorithm. It's set in stone. It's not based on what the user infers to be a good
Mhm.
or bad thing. So that removes the middleman, that removes the lawyer, or the interpretation of whether what is happening is right or not. It is purely
Mhm.
technological, purely based in software. The software won't run, right? The smart contract gives you all these checks to prevent wrongdoing. For example, if all the criterias say you have handed over, so one criteria is you have handed over the documents, the seller has handed over documents, the buyer has done the due diligence, the contract has been, the registration has happened. If all of these criteria match, the financial institution, who is also one of the stakeholders in a smart contract, will see that all of these have matched, and they will disburse of the money. Only when the money has been disbursed to the seller, the buyer gets uh, the property. So all these
Mhm.
if conditions can be put together in a smart contract, and this smart contract is placed in a blockchain such that nobody can
Mhm.
tamper with this contract. It's trustworthy, it's shared, and then once that contract is done, that record always stays. Like Joydeep was saying, that record is in the blockchain entirely. Any other person who comes in to see what has happened, historical data, they can see this contract and know that, oh, okay, there is perfect proof that this transaction has happened in order. All the parties have settled it. So there's no dispute that can happen ever again. Anyone who
Mhm.
wants to come back and dispute it will have to go back to this smart contract, to this blockchain, and derive the data in itself. So it does remove
Okay.
a lot of blockchain. If you implement all these in blockchain, it does remove. a lot of the overheads that you were asking, the
Yeah.
middlemen.
And speaking of overhead, I think a lot of time that is spent by many government agency officials and professionals um, is in preparing documents or, uh, you know, addressing this kind of problems, right? Where you have a problem, have a dispute, and that is, uh, being settled in court, and the the public officials have been dragged into this where they have to prepare for this kind of cases, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of time, effort, and tax money is spent into this, which is of no use. You can
Right.
spend that gained time and energy into something more fruitful, obviously, right? And also this because there is trust by design in this framework in this system, it will be easily admissible in the court of law.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if I say that this transaction has been recorded in this particular platform on this framework, the court of law, the judge will actually, uh, you know, treat that as an admissible evidence that yes,
Mhm.
this person is saying the truth.
Another thing which
Right?
came to my mind just now. So, like talking on this same context, we know that these, what do we say, these cryptocurrencies, these are also based on the blockchain technologies. And as we are saying, that this initiative which we are talking about in the like real estate industry, the ownership and initiative has to come from the government side.
Yeah.
And till date, what we have seen that the government of India has a negative outlook about the cryptocurrencies. So the public cryptocurrencies, of course, like the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and they are like they want to start a cryptocurrency of their own, the Reserve Bank. So, do you think that there is some kind of inhibition from the government side which may occur in like implementing or taking up the initiative in such a project, or how it can be avoided in that case?
Yeah, I think let's allay that misconception for good.
Yeah.
There's a difference between cryptocurrency and blockchain. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrencies are implemented on blockchain, but that is not the only implementation of blockchain. Blockchain is in itself a technology, right? It's a concept.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just cryptocurrency. It's not just financial, uh, applications that you have on blockchain. There are many other applications that are possible on blockchain. And case in point, our solution, the proposed solution, right?
Okay.
Because we have because we have fears, worries about cryptocurrency, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
all unfounded, yes, because there have been problems, there have been controversies around cryptocurrencies, and for good reasons. But that should not stop us from exploring the technology itself, because the technology, the blockchain technology in itself, has a lot of benefits, and it has been implemented in many other ways, in many
Mm-hmm.
other, in many sectors
Yeah.
at present. And there, all those sectors, all those applications are reaping tangible benefits for those organizations. So yes, there are a lot of benefits, and if the inhibitions, the misconceptions are there around cryptocurrency, that should not have any bearing on the technology of blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And I also
So
So,
believe
so
there's
do
always
yeah.
fear about what is unknown, right? What we
Mm-hmm.
are proposing, I think, is the government builds up the blockchain's ecosystem uh, from scratch for themselves. So if they are the perpetrators, if they are the people who are the initiators of this problem, then all the apprehensions of that comes with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies is going to go away, because the implementation is by the blockchain, is by the government in themselves. They have
yeah,
absolute control over it. They're
yeah,
just democratizing the process in itself, and so
and
that is
there are a
again.
lot of other solutions.
Sorry.
Sorry,
What were
sorry,
you?
go on, Shom, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, that's what I was saying. So allaying fears will happen once government takes ownership of this initiative, right?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And it's not
So,
just real estate solution, right? I mean, government can, uh, implement blockchain in many other problems that we are having in our country right now. It's not just blockchain,
mhm.
and blockchain. We can take up those topics in our later episodes on the podcast. And so there are a lot of applications that can easily use blockchain as a technology.
Okay, cool. So, we were talking, if you're talking about the legal firms or the some other startups exploring various uh, business ideas, leveraging this platform. So, do you think that they are going to use the cryptocurrencies as a mode of transaction in this platform?
Yeah, they can very
Well,
easily can. I mean, if they want to, they very easily can, but it doesn't have to
mhm,
be limited to any cryptocurrency. You can easily transact with fiat currencies like we have INR, right?
mhm,
I mean, there's nothing stopping you from doing that, and I think that should be the ideal way to go. Because there is a
mhm,
lot of trust in fiat currency. I think that should be the mode of transaction. And if the government in actually sanctions or approves of any cryptocurrency as a legal tender, then obviously yes. Otherwise, I don't see any reason why cryptocurrency has to be the
mhm.
means to do those to do any commerce on the platform. Fiat currency should
Okay.
be enough. Yeah.
So what model you are proposing is like a private blockchain model instead of a public one. That
We are getting into, yeah, so we're getting into that, yes. Um so yeah, we did propose blockchain, yes, but I
okay.
think because this is a topic that is as sensitive as real estate, I think it should not be left completely unbridled, right? There should
Mhm.
be some guardrails that need to be put into place, because there can be a lot of malpractices that might be possible when you
Yeah.
keep it completely unfettered, right? Um,
True.
Now, it might happen that yes, because we have a platform like this, which generally available, which is easy, seamless, automated. A lot of people will be interested. A lot of investors will be interested. We haven't talked about partial ownership, but there's a concept of partial ownership of real
Yeah,
estate assets,
yes.
where
Yeah.
we can tokenize different assets, and if you do not want to sell the whole property as an asset, we can divide that asset into sub assets or
Mhm.
smaller assets as tokens and sell them. What will that do is it will infuse a lot of liquidity into the picture, right? Into the whole
Mhm.
ecosystem.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. So when you have that kind of that kind of transactions, those kind of things happening, which are really good, which will make the ecosystem really vibrant, um, will also come with its own set of vices, right?
Mhm.
Open doors to a lot of malpractices. Like we're saying, someone with a deep pocket can try
Right.
to monopolize the whole environment, and that's not good.
Yeah.
As a government, or as a governing body, it should be ingrained in the system, where we'll always make sure that there's a level playing field for everyone,
Mhm.
because we live in a country where we have such a huge population. We should make sure that all of us should have equal opportunity to buying land, to buying real estate in the country. So yes, we should still encourage competition. I'm not proposing any kind of socialism or communism,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
but but even if you're proposing capitalism, enough competition into the
Mhm.
ecosystem, we should also make sure that it is built with enough guardrails, with enough ethical consideration into a conversation, so that when we build the thing, it should not serve one man's purpose and defeat others.
True. True.
Right? So those considerations have to be put into place, and also about having a private sort of framework, private
Mhm.
blockchain framework. Yes, I think that it is important that certain individuals or certain a trusted body be authorized to
Mhm.
do that kind of edits or have certain sort of privilege to make or extract some kind of information that is not otherwise publicly available, right? It
Right.
can it can be the Chief Justice of India, it can be
Mm,
the judges, right? Or
mm,
or,
mm.
uh, or police department with proper court orders can extract any kind of information from that platform, right?
Yeah.
Because it's right. And also for foreign investment, if we have a platform, it will easily invite or welcome a lot of foreign investment, right? And for obvious reasons, which is a good thing. It will
True.
it will have a lot of foreign currency influx, and that's a good thing.
Mm,
But it
mm,
should
mm.
be so cannot be left unchecked,
Of
because
course. Yeah.
so that kind of open a lot of a box of worms, right? So those
Absolutely.
kind of checks and balances need to be put into place so that it cannot go completely scot free,
Right. Right.
right?
So,
So
so, 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 from where do you think this should start by the government? So, what's in there for the government to start this kind of a huge project like the UIDI or the UPI? Apart
I
from a
think
good governance perspective, of course. So, yeah, please share your thoughts.
I think the obvious reason is I think I think we are circling back to where we started, right?
Mhm.
India is poised to become the third largest or even better economy in
Yeah.
the world.
Mhm.
Real estate is poised to become a $1 trillion industry, conservatively speaking,
Yeah.
right? And they have to come together. If India has to become one of the biggest economies in the world, real estate will play an instrumental role to make that thing happen. And
Mhm.
for real estate to become such a vibrant, such a profitable uh, ecosystem, such profitable industry, uh, these kind of problems have to be solved. So there is a obvious stake of the government why they would want something, a framework or a platform or a system to be built, because the economy will be booming because of such implementations. That's one. Two is, if government wants to sort of bring in some kind of profit into the exchequer, yes, that's also possible. Using the platform, you can take, if it's built using a PPP model, public private partnership model, you can obviously take a cut of every transaction that's happening on the platform, right?
Mhm.
That can also bring in some good money to the exchequer, the government exchequer, where you can use that money for other initiatives as well. So because this sector is going to boom like anything, there's a huge
Right.
opportunity. It's not happening because there's nothing like that, nothing like this platform
Mhm.
yet. Once we have that, the opportunities are endless, and the kind of commerce that's going to happen is, it will know no bounds. So once that start happening, the kind of money that will come in to the government's exchequer, to government's coffers,
Mhm.
really imagine how much government will actually earn from that. So there's obvious, uh,
True.
evidence that government can earn from this.
True.
Anything else, Shom, that you can think of?
No, I think you probably hit most of the points. There was some talk about entrepreneurial activities that can happen around blockchain in
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
Um, it's true. So the government creates the basis, the framework for it, and then much like UPI, there can be
Yes,
these private entrepreneurs who actually build solutions, uh, real estate solutions based on the blockchain in itself, and
yes.
you can monetize it. And the government also gets a cut of it because it's not free. This entire system will require years of planning as well as implementation. Every transaction that happens goes through it, the government actually receives the due fees for like you have now. Even
Hmm.
now, the real estate transaction requires fees that the government receives. So similarly, the
Yep.
government will similarly receive the transaction fees, which will offset the costs of creating this platform. It's a bare bone structure. It has the guardrails in it. And then on top of it, you can expose additional functionalities, which the private companies are going to do. They're going to develop these innovative apps on it. One app will be, like you said, for partial ownership of real estate. People who want to buy vacation properties, they're not going to stay in a vacation property for the entire year, so they can instead do like a 1/10 of the year. So every person gets roughly about 30 days of the vacation rental. Imagine the same real estate property, 10 people as owners. There's no conflict because everything is in a blockchain. Everything is set that you have ownership from this month to this month. Any disputes can be handled by the blockchain themselves. That can be
Yeah.
an app idea or a company idea. There can be ideas about, um, if you want to look at what the history of a particular land is, you can develop an app which is just like a search engine in the blockchain, right? And that is not restricted to your place. You don't have to run to the BLRO office, submit your request to do the due diligence. You can work it through the blockchain. You can by a click of an app, you can get the history. Um,
Yeah.
Lawyers,
Valuations. Yeah.
yeah, valuation. Yes, that's a very interesting point. Yes.
Yes.
Um, Valuation apparently takes a long time, and I've seen this firsthand. It's a laborious work for the corporation. It doesn't happen for years, and once it happens after 20 years, there's a huge bill that the landlord has to cough up. So
Yeah.
that can be avoided by a seamless query into the blockchain. People, the valuation guys will know what is the history of the area without having to go through piles and piles of actual documents that are dusty somewhere in some office, right?
Right.
Institutions, they, financial institution, like Joydeep was saying at one point, if you don't have enough history as a young entrepreneur, the financial institution doesn't give you the liquidity you need. So for
Okay.
them, blockchain is a huge, it provides an element of trust, and some person can actually leverage this. They can leverage the blockchain, provide this trust, provide these kinds of services, this information. So the scale is endless if you think of it, and we
Yeah.
can go on for hours, I think, if we actually
Yeah.
brainstorm the ideas. um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
moral of the
True.
story,
There'll be ideas we won't be even be thinking of, right?
right,
So that will see the light of the day if such kind of things actually
right,
uh, are
right.
are are brought to life. So yeah.
So
So
apart from this B2C perspective, which we are mostly talking about till now, right? The business to consumer perspective. So do you think that from a B2B perspective or from governance perspective, this blockchain platform is going to add some value to the ecosystem, uh, that may be like land acquisition for infrastructure projects, or the service provided by a utility company in a metropolitan city? Will
yeah.
these platform going to help in those scenarios? What do you think about that?
I can think of one thing right now. There's just of the pattern. This is piggybacking on what Joydeep said.
Hmm.
um, Large scale companies are hesitant to invest in the developing world because of these bureaucratic red tapes, right?
Yeah.
Blockchain provides them with the trust that a foreign organization can influx in a lot of money into industrial ventures just by going through the blockchain itself, and that's a business to business, right? If Apple today comes
True.
in and wants to buy a piece of land, a huge piece of land, surveys, all the stuff, you name it, the entire flow
Yeah.
can be handled. They can do their share of due diligence. They have the technological power to do it. They can leverage off the
Yeah.
system itself. And as you grow trust, you get more liquidity, you get foreign investment, you get the big players in, not just residential real estate. And then commercial real estate booms also. So
Yeah.
definitely, to answer your question, blockchain, if you in if you revolutionize real estate in India using blockchain, these benefits are just waiting around the corner.
Yeah, and also it shows government in good light as well. I mean, it can be
Mhm.
used as political um dividend, right? Um,
True.
right. So whichever political party actually, brings this
Mhm.
to life, can use this as, you know, for the to the political advantage.
Right. So do we know of any existing example of any organization or companies anywhere in the world exploring this kind of blockchain technology in real estate field? Do we know of anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's no undertaking that is as huge as this, obviously.
Yeah, the
At least
scale of this is huge,
demonstrably.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, this is
it's
this scale is
insane.
huge. Yes, I mean, this
Yeah.
what we are talking about, a countrywide, all-encompassing, a countrywide
Yeah.
platform that is accessible for everyone, pretty
Okay.
much. It's for end consumers. It's for businesses. So everyone can use that. It's more like an open data platform, right?
Right.
Pretty much. Um, it's just that we are proposing blockchain the as the bedrock.
There's always this fear that any automation takes away jobs.
Yes.
Um,
Mhm.
but the amount of information I've gathered, even to, so you have these smart contracts that we spoke of. Even to create these smart contracts, to actually, stitch them up, you need personnel. It's not like you are going
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
computer just do it. Like AI is not going. If we merge AI and blockchain and and you add all of that together, that becomes a different beast
Yeah.
altogether. Not get into that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just the
Again,
bedrocks,
yeah,
like the blockchain itself, you need people instead of the actual contracts that were written in paper, pen and paper. You now have a much more organized, structured way, and you still need people to
Right.
develop these contracts for you. So the need for people will still be there even though you implement this new
Mhm.
technology. There will still
oh
be
yeah,
need for these different people who run these entrepreneurial activities, which are different parts of the flow. So
Great.
instead of blockchain technology or a new technology being taking away jobs, I think this opens up much more avenues
yeah,
than
yeah,
there
yeah.
currently are.
True.
Otherwise, the
Absolutely.
government is like strapped, with low number of employees right now. That's why we have so much of backlogs. Once this is done,
Exactly.
uh, I think you can circumvent many of these problems of backlogs.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, yeah,
True.
yeah, yeah. And I think also, I think of the commerce that it can unravel, right? The amount of commerce that this can bring in, like the number of startups that are going to be built on top of this infrastructure, right? So again, the avenues are immense. So all it needs to be done is to make the platform actually be ready and the data be exposed, and yes, and automation taking away jobs. I think that philosophy is not valid here, because this whole sector, as we know, the real estate is so unorganized right now. It's so unorganized, and it's a pain, and for the government as well, it's a pain, right? Have bearing an unorganized sector in economy, we are trying to make the economy function as organized, as formalized as possible, is really a cumbersome job, right? So you can't bring in your tax initiatives and all that stuff. So government as a body can earn a lot uh, when you're trying to formalize a sector as huge as real estate. So when you bring something like this, a lot of unorganized, um, menial uh, things that are happening right now might be completely be done
Mhm.
away with. But there are a lot of other things that will come in, which will actually help in formalizing the whole ecosystem. And when you formalize an ecosystem, there are a lot of other things good things that will be brought into the fray, where you can, as a government, you can also implement other things from where you can reap benefits or profits out of,
Right. Right.
right?
So yeah, I think we covered almost all the points, the goods and bads, and of course the potential which you're talking about of this huge thing which you're proposing. I don't know. It's for there's someone to pick up and build a
Hopefully,
start a
yes.
business. Yeah,
That's the whole idea. Hopefully somebody
yeah,
will listen because
yeah,
Including yourselves,
it's
right?
not
As software
yeah,
engineers.
yeah. I mean, if we ever get
yeah,
enough bandwidth in our hands, perhaps we'll can jump on it. But again, this kind of initiative cannot be made possible without the government
Government
being in
intervention.
the
Yeah.
picture.
yeah, yeah. True.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for times ahead.
Yeah, hopeful. Hope springs eternal, right?
Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of our discussion today. I hope people have enjoyed and find some insights from the discussions, the points which we put forward. Maybe there are many things unexplored which doesn't come to our mind right now. So let us know your thoughts and inputs in the comments, and we'll come again with another episode of What's the Rant. Stay tuned. Thanks all. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye bye.